The first message came through my voicemail at 2:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning. No caller ID, no number, just unknown, and it shouldn't have gone through at all because I put my phone on airplane mode before bed like I always do. But the notification was there, and I opened it thinking maybe it was a glitch or spam, but the second I heard my own voice, my exact voice, say the words, "Don't go to the parking garage after 9 tonight," I froze like my spine had forgotten how to hold me up, because I know what I sound like, and this wasn't a recording I'd made, not for a joke, not for anyone, and I sure as hell didn't remember warning myself about anything, let alone the parking garage under my building. I played it again. Same voice. Calm, quiet, no background noise. But I recognized the breath at the end, that little inhale I do when I'm nervous or lying or trying to hold something back. And even though the message was short, barely 6 seconds, it shook something loose in me, a fear I didn't understand yet but couldn't ignore. I didn't go to the garage that night. I parked on the street. I didn't even look down the ramp. And around 9:41 p.m., I heard the sirens. 2 ambulances, 1 fire truck, caution tape, and a report on the local news an hour later about a freak electrical fire caused by a wiring failure near the elevator control box. No one was hurt, but if I had gone in, I would have been exactly where the damage started. I didn't tell anyone about the message. I deleted it. But the next night, at exactly the same time, 2:47 a.m., I got another voicemail, again from unknown. And this time, my voice said, "Don't speak to her when she knocks, no matter what name she uses." I didn't sleep after that second message, not because I was scared in the traditional sense, but because I realized something had shifted permanently. Like a hairline crack in the floor you've always ignored until one day it starts leaking light from somewhere underneath. And I sat there on the edge of the bed staring at the voicemail screen with the message still open, still untouched, still timestamped exactly at 2:47 a.m., just like the first one. Same format, same length, same steady tone, and I listened to it again and again trying to detect any hint of manipulation or AI or even some cruel joke. But it was undeniably me, not just my voice, but my breath, my cadence, the way I drag out the second syllable when I'm trying to sound calm but my throat is tight. And I kept hearing that line, "Don't speak to her when she knocks," and asking myself who she was and what name she might try to use and why that mattered more than the knocking itself. And I thought about calling someone, telling someone, asking for help, but who do you call when you're receiving messages from yourself warning you about things that haven't happened yet, things that then happen exactly as described? So I waited, and at 9:03 p.m. that night, there was a knock at the door. Not loud, not rushed, just 3 soft taps spaced perfectly apart, like whoever stood there had all the time in the world. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood in the hallway staring at the door like it might open on its own, and then I heard it, a voice, soft, familiar, slightly muffled through the door. She said, "It's me, Rachel. Can we talk?" And everything inside me clenched because Rachel was my ex, someone I hadn't seen or spoken to in almost 4 years, someone who lived 2 states away and had no reason to show up at my apartment at night unannounced, and even if she did, she wouldn't knock like that. She'd call, she'd text, she'd buzz the front entrance. But the building's main door never rang, and I checked my phone again to confirm. No missed calls, no texts, no alerts, just that one voicemail still sitting there like a quiet command. "Don't speak to her when she knocks, no matter what name she uses." I didn't say a word. I didn't make a sound. I stood there frozen as the knocking came again, slower this time, heavier, followed by a second voice, deeper, male, unfamiliar, whispering my name, just my first name, nothing else, and then silence. I waited 30 minutes before looking through the peephole. No one there. Hallway lights off. Elevator stuck on floor 7 even though I live on 12. And when I finally stepped back inside and checked my phone again, there was a third voicemail. New. 2:47 a.m. Same unknown sender. My voice, breath shallow, whispering now. "You're going to try and call Alex. Don't. He's already compromised." I hadn't even thought about calling Alex until I heard the message. But the second I did, I realized I probably would have, because he's the only person who knows how I think, how I spiral, how I try to rationalize the irrational. And if anyone could have calmed me down or helped me analyze the situation logically, it would have been him, which meant that the message wasn't just predicting my actions anymore. It was responding to them, getting ahead of me, steering me away from certain decisions before I even consciously chose them. And that's when I stopped thinking about these messages as warnings and started seeing them for what they really were. Instructions, not guidance, not safety tips, but controlled, timed, precise instructions issued from a version of myself who knew more than I did, who remembered things I hadn't lived yet, and now claimed someone I trusted couldn't be trusted anymore. I tried texting Alex anyway, just something short, vague, like, "Hey man, weird week, call when you're up." And the moment I hit send, my phone froze for 3 full seconds before the screen went black and rebooted itself, not like a glitch, but like it had been forced to shut down. And when it came back on, the message was gone, not unsent, not failed, just erased completely like it had never happened. My hands were sweating. My mouth was dry. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was no longer thinking in real time, that I was lagging behind some timeline where the version of me sending these messages had already seen every one of my choices fail and was now issuing the only surviving path out. The next voicemail came early, 2:40 a.m. this time, not the usual 2:47, and I didn't notice the timestamp until after I'd played it, and by then it was too late because this one was longer, 30 seconds instead of 5, and it started with my voice in full full panic mode, shaky and fast, saying, "They're not people, they're placeholders. Every one of them you think you remember was put there to buy time, to slow you down." And then a sharp breath, followed by silence, followed by another voice, still me, but deeper, more tired, slower, like someone who'd been screaming for days and now just whispered. And that second version of my voice said, "If you're still where I was, you're not alone in the apartment." That was it. Nothing else. No noise. No click. No call Idaho. Just that sentence. And as soon as it ended, I felt it. Subtle at first. Like the temperature in the room had dropped a few degrees. Like the shadows from the hallway had thickened even though the light hadn't changed. And I turned around slowly, heart in my throat, eyes scanning every doorway, every corner. And I couldn't see anything, but I knew I was being watched. Not from outside the apartment. Not from a camera or a phone or even a window. But from within the timeline I was still trying to pretend hadn't already branched off. I slept in the bathtub with the door locked and the light on. Phone under my arm. Volume all the way up. Waiting for the next call like it would be a flare shot from the future telling me which version of myself had survived long enough to send it. I didn't leave the apartment the next day, not because I felt safe inside, but because I knew the messages were tied to this space, this timeline, this place where the air carried echoes and the walls held on to sound just a little too long. And I spent the entire day pacing from room to room, marking every doorway with tape, laying thread across thresholds, placing a glass of water on every table just to see if it would ripple on its own. Because I needed something physical, something measurable, something I could point to when I told myself I wasn't losing my mind. But everything stayed still, normal, lifeless, except for the voicemail icon that popped up again at exactly 2:47 a.m., as if nothing I'd done mattered, as if every precaution was just theater. And when I pressed play, I already knew it would be my voice. But this time it wasn't quite right, not just in tone, but in timing. Like the words were lagging half a beat behind a breath, like someone or something was using my voice. The way you use a mask. And it said, "You're going to want to look under the floorboard in your bedroom closet. But if you do, everything resets." And then there was a pause, and I thought that was it. But then it said something else, quieter, buried under static. "Don't check your photos." And the message cut off. I stood there frozen, trying to process what that even meant, heart racing as I opened my closet door and stared down at the boards I'd never touched since moving in. And my first instinct was to ignore it, to pretend the message hadn't arrived. But curiosity in this context isn't curiosity. It's compulsion. And before I knew it, I was prying up the board with a screwdriver, palms sweating, breath shallow. And underneath was something wrapped in cloth, old, stained, folded tight like it had been placed there with care. I unwrapped it slowly, expecting something horrible, maybe a photo, maybe a bone, maybe something that would prove this wasn't just psychological, but instead it was a phone. Not mine. Older. Dead. No charger in sight. Just one missed call showing on the black screen. From me. Timestamped 4 days from now. I dropped it and backed away, heart pounding like it was trying to wake me from something I hadn't realized I'd fallen into. And when I stumbled into the living room, I knocked over one of the glasses of water I'd set out, and the second it hit the ground, every light in the apartment shut off. I stood in total darkness, clutching the useless old phone, listening to nothing but my own breathing, until my current phone lit up, glowing white with a new message already transcribed on screen. No audio, just one sentence, typed cleanly. "You opened the wrong path. You'll feel it when the timeline starts to collapse." And before I could read it again, the screen flashed red, and my call history filled with dozens of missed calls. Every single one was from me. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid of what might happen, but because I could feel it already had, like some part of my memory had been overwritten mid-thought, like I was living in the middle of a version of myself that had taken a wrong turn and was now being steered back into place by hands I couldn't see but had somehow always been mine. And every missed call on my screen was a breadcrumb left by someone trying to find their way back into a timeline that wasn't collapsing. It was splitting cleanly, deliberately, over and over, until every choice I made had already been tested and failed somewhere else. I stopped deleting the messages. I started writing them down, timing them, cataloging every breath, every word, every pattern, because I needed to know whether this was still me speaking or whether something else had hijacked my voice to guide me toward an ending I hadn't chosen. And the more I studied them, the more I realized they were building towards something coordinated, not random, not reactive, because every message ended in a sentence fragment, and when I lined them up by date, they formed a full paragraph, a command. And the last line came exactly 7 days after the first voicemail. "If you're reading this, it means the loop is held. You must now record the message." I didn't know what it meant at first, didn't know how or where, but that night I found a draft voicemail saved on my phone, created automatically, with the record button blinking red like it had always been waiting for my confirmation. And something in my body moved before I could stop it. Finger to button, breath steady, lips already forming the sentence I hadn't realized I knew word for word. "Don't go to the parking garage after 9 tonight." I hit send before I could think, before I could ask who I was sending it to, before I could stop myself. And now I wait. I keep my phone off during the day. I sleep with it beside me. I watch the time roll toward 2:47 a.m. every night, and I wait to hear what I'll say next, because it's still my voice, still my breath, still my fear. But I'm no longer sure if I'm trying to survive something, or if I've already become the thing I was warning myself about.